and very warm welcome to Pinaka Live, another episode of Pinaka Live. As we move into 2025, it will be very exciting to see what is going to be the shape of AI and its impact across different industries. Today, I am very excited about this episode. We are privileged to have Dr. Chiranjiv Roy, a visionary with more than 20 years of experience into the area of artificial intelligence and machine learning. He is a PhD in applied machine learning, postdoctorate in generative AI, and has more than 50 patents. He is a part of Forbes Technology Council. Uh, I mean, the list can go on and on. Maybe he is one of the 10, uh, top 10 data scientists of the country. A very warm welcome, Dr. Roy. It's
Thank
an
you so much.
absolute privilege to have you here.
Thank you so much, Mohit. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for agreeing to do this. And for my viewers, I want to call it out that this is going to be a master class, nothing like you would have seen before. So watch out as we delve into what is going to happen with AI after 2025. So there are multiple words floating around these days, Dr. Roy, and I'll start with that. So just to clarify some confusions, because one of the core objectives of Pinaka Live was to enhance awareness and this kind of a mixed knowledge or incomplete knowledge that people have about AI, it doesn't allow them to take the right decisions or consider it seriously as well. And there is a lot of resistance as well. So, from a change management standpoint, we'll all know that there is a lot of challenges that we face when we are trying to position AI in front of the business stakeholders. So, there is predictive, there is generative, there is descriptive, there is agentic. How many AIs are there in total? Can we start with that?
No, fantastic, Mohit. And in a few moments, I'll share um, my screen and we'll talk about some of the glances. But welcome everybody to 2025. I think what's more important today is we are in the next set of evolution, right? And evolution is not a journey. Evolution is a thought through landscape where human beings have actually transitioned from a different state to a new state, and then the flow continues. We have always been doing science, right? The human beings have been always doing science. In the last 20, 25 years, we started with searches. We came today in the last 2 decades, we have understood how analytics, and then we came into artificial intelligence, which was is a technological wrapper on top of the fundamental sciences, along with the business problem to be domain. Generative artificial intelligence and going forward agentic AI is going to massively disrupt, and that's what everybody's saying, the current thought processes itself. And today we are going to talk about it. So without further ado, Mohit, let me share my screen, and
Sure.
probably then everybody will be able to understand it better. And we'll take some of the examples.
Sure.
And these are examples which are very generic, very traditional. There are some of them which are comparatively very traditional. Things are getting done today as we speak, right? But what's gonna change? Artificial intelligence has broadened its horizon, basically. We used to describe a problem, we used to do experimentation, then we started with prediction. Now we have into generic, which is generative artificial intelligence. It generates, and then agentic artificial intelligence. When you combine all of these four together, and that's what 2025 is all about and beyond, you would create very high value, high impact, outcome driven business problems. Today, we'll talk about and see some immediate, intermediate to advanced examples in CPG, pharma, manufacturing, and consumer lending. These are the four forms that I picked up, but there are tons and tons of them. And how, as a chain reaction, artificial intelligence in all its forms will go ahead and give you solutions and drive outcomes from it, which all of us want.
That's what we want to know. And it all
Absolutely.
the way you described it, it reminded me of the Gartner's terminology that they use, that there is a descriptive, there is diagnostic, there is prescriptive, and there is predictive. Right. The
Correct.
prescriptive, I believe, is on to the right hand side of the continuum. It's pretty
Yes.
much, if I have to map the evolution journey of the way we have transformed these sciences, we are going towards prescriptive. So this is what we call as white glove treatment in consulting world, being
Absolutely.
taken care of.
Absolutely. And Mohit, prescriptive, this is my version of truth. Okay. would be divided into generative and agentic. Basically, it can be either
Yes.
of the forms, right?
Yeah.
Prescription was always a question mark by everybody, but today prescription in its two form will actually go ahead and continuously evolve with the human being. Please do understand that the human machine interface, right, which is humans interaction with communicating with the descriptions and diagnostics. I've not used diagnostics here because descriptive also uses diagnostics, right, and predictive. Human beings have not been able to fully leverage it, right, according to how we would like to have because of the communication challenges. Machines could not truly communicate with natural human beings. That's why natural language processing transformed into Transformers, the Transformer movie, to be precise. Think about
Mhm.
that angle. And that now is getting into real life business problems. So let's see some of the examples from here.
Sure,
Over.
sir.
Yeah.
Over to you.
We'll take some examples, as I said. The first one, let's say, take a consumer packaged goods industry, CPG, any industry, as in you can be selling a soap to a water bottle to a Coca-Cola, right? Anything, right? A fruit juice, anything of that nature. That's one of the most huge, biggest of the industries which dominates us, right? Now, one of the most important problems that is solved every day is from demand planning and inventory optimization, right? And what's more important, right, is through descriptive artificial intelligence we have been able to always been able to analyze the sales, how much of the sales will come into picture, what is the sales trends, what is the promotional impacts, and so on and so forth. Then we started with predictive. We've reached till there. There is work which has been done. We forecast the future demand by using machine learning. We understand what is the trend and forecast the future, basically. It keeps on changing, but COVID has told us that none of the forecasts will exist,
And come
right?
true.
And come true, right? It has to be optimized. So then what will
Yeah.
generative AI do? Generative AI will look at what has been forecasted and it can propose. Now you see, prescription comes into picture. You already know the symptoms. Now the doctor is supposed to prescribe. Generative AI will propose inventory allocation strategies. It will
Yeah.
start proposing the inventory allocation. Basically, where should you put what? And then finally, agentic AI will come into picture, which is a form of agents, right? And it will automate the inventories replenishment as well as distribution. So, in a whole, the entire life cycle from getting a cell, right, or the demand to be precise, to actually supply, the entire chain order can be actually taken care of. Of course, the human being is also at the center point. But imagine so many things doing up together, right? You cannot look at a single landscape, correct?
Yeah.
That can be done here.
But there is one key difference. It is just like doing things and monitoring things which are being done. That basically
Absolutely.
changes. So it gives you an opportunity of scale. And somewhere down the line, Dr. Roy, I have also seen that our our pursuit for progress has led us to increase sophistication and complexity into our lives, right? Things usually you cannot progress beyond a certain point, and after that you have to depend on technology in order to augment your capabilities. I see this journey right from descriptive to agentic as to a reflection of that as well. That
Yes,
we, as things are getting more and more complicated, you have take CPG companies, the example that you have taken. They are very large in scale. They have acquired
yes.
multiple businesses, very complex architectures, very complex technological systems do not speak to one another. So there was always more work getting created. As they say it, that bureaucrats rise to their level of incompetence and they just create work for themselves.
And as in, not only that, AI's intention always was to go to the grassroots of the society,
True. That's
right?
true.
A small retail or a fashion retailer on the road, right, should be able to utilize AI. That's what the power of democratization was. So what changed today is we have been always focusing on the technological and the digital part, basically, right, to acquire the data, to get the better data. Now we
That's
have the
true.
power to read unstructured data, number one, right?
Yes.
You can read unstructured data today till a very sophisticated form, and it can create nuances. Second innovation or invention in this game is communication, right? You and me, even if you are a chief marketing officer of a company, and I, being a chief data scientist, we don't need to talk in a technological language. We have somebody in between which can actually empower both of us. And this becomes accelerator. However, this does not change the entire process. You will still be doing a demand planning and selling it to somebody. You will be still be selling something offline to online. But with all these approaches coming in together, the fashion retailer on the store on the road would be able to not only just dream to get AI, right? But would be able to use it for his benefit. He would be able, even if the person has only one store to keep his stuff, he can go from his um, neighborhood to a city, to a region, to a country. I'm not talking about people who are large scale manufacturers as well,
That's true.
right? On this part, everybody can have that game and can have that skin in the game. So what is the outcome? So you can, other than looking at reducing of stockouts, excess inventory, and so on and so forth, you are actually getting into customer engagement and your lower holding cost. But it gives you a dimension to go entire scale. $100 billion, a billion trillion dollar company, and as well as a company who's, let's say, 100 crore generating 100 crores or 10 to 15 million dollars
I view it
in
like
a.
this, Dr. Rai. I view it like this that it allows you to serve more and more customers. So your
Absolutely
limitations to serve the customer are removed.
correct.
And as a technological lever, if there is one universal denominator, we can call it, it allows you to serve more and more customers all at the same time. That's
Yes,
it's not a queue system, one
correct.
after another. And
It's not
that's what
technology.
you got. It's not,
It's
yeah,
not just technology which is
it's
going to
not just
dominate.
technology dominant.
Let's
That's it.
take one more example.
Sure, sir.
And this is very, very related to everybody in marketing and sales. Product recommendations. Everybody love it, right? You go to a grocery store just opposite to your house, they would love to get the product recommendations, basically what's working. And now it is hyper personalization. Google has done it. You open it, and of course Apple is going towards it, hopefully. But Google has already put it onto the Android, right? It knows what you do. What's going to change today? What's going to change today is the formation of the science still remains the same. You need to segment the customers using historical data and behavioral patterns. So you need to know whom are you selling to, where are you selling. Of course, the data is abundant, so you can take more and more data and combine that information to go for hyper predictive artificial intelligence, which means you anticipate customers' purchases likelihood based on a lot of factors. Please understand, you have been always restricted to structured data. Now you would
Yeah.
get more features from unstructured data as well. For example, what are people searching today? Right? Can I, based upon the search, be able to keep what people are buying on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday versus the weekend? Right? Can I look at my pattern from 29th of December to 31st of December in order to predict well in advance, even if it is like, let's say, Thanksgiving? We
Mm.
know it. We know the pattern day in and day out. And that these two information, descriptive and predictive, as a chain order, if you give it to generative AI, right? You put the system, it creates a tailored marketing campaign and offers explicitly. You can put it on your WhatsApp, Telegram, right? The channel that you're communicating. Your engagement enhances exponentially. And finally, you can actually deploy virtual assistants to guide customers online. Every individual customer can get a virtual assistant for themselves.
It's just like you stole my thought. That is the kind of stuff that is coming. Okay, I was just thinking about it and this has appeared. You cannot deny the compulsion to purchase for a very long
Correct.
period of time. So if happens three times, four times, automation, repeatability, it is reinforcing the same set of neurons in your head in order for making you to buy, even if
Absolutely.
it doesn't matter whether you need it or not. This is called anticipative marketing. You can basically
Absolutely.
push
It's
it.
all about it's all
Yeah,
about experience and engagement. The more engaged that you keep your customer, the more propensity is to buy. We
yeah,
we created this theory at least half a decade back. Today you can make it a reality.
yeah. That's
That's
true.
the point of view. The outcome, there can be multiple things. You can increase conversion rates, enhances loyalty. You can actually measure the return of investment. Technically,
Mm.
you can actually measure investment that you can get from two individuals.
That's gonna
right?
make rest of the standard the traditional marketing as completely outdated. It's like
No, no, Mohit. Because to do descriptive and predictive, you still would require that domain
data.
knowledge.
Yeah,
Data and domain knowledge. See,
domain knowledge. Yeah.
we always had the data, right? Unstructured data, we were never be able, we were not been able to read it or decipher anything out of it because we never knew how to communicate with the unstructured data. Today, you know it. If you apply the domain knowledge and AI on the both the forms of data with the process, this is what you get.
I think this is a very relevant point you have touched upon because this reminds me of what Paul Doherty in one of the events said. I think it was in 2019. It was about that the role of humans will change from let's say right now the role is manual labor, but they because they carry the domain knowledge of being a manual labor, they will
Hmm.
become an AI, a very good AI trainer to
Hmm.
train AI to carry out the same task and to train AI on what are the nuances to watch out for. So the role will change rather than just like a jobs getting killed. This is going to be more of a realignment of the roles as well to a large extent because the domain knowledge is still lies with those humans. Brilliant, brilliant, I would say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's take some of them. So let's look
Sure,
at another industry,
absolutely.
pharmaceuticals. We all love them, right? This is you can you can and cannot live with it, right?
True.
It's both of them, right? Essential for human beings and mankind, right? And one of the most important ones is drug development and discovery. Very complex, right? It still is very complex. However, we have been able to use descriptive AI to analyze clinical trial data. We have been doing existing research, patient demographics, identifying trends in drugs efficacy, and so on and so forth. This primary the trial and the development together, right? Previously, the trial and the development were in sync, but actually apart. Today, it will come as an amalgamation. You can get real time recommendations. For example, then you use this data in the predictive world, basically. So you model the success rate of potential drug compounds on the kind of biochemical reactions which would likely to be happening, and so on and so forth. Because you need to read a lot of research paper. Research comes a lot R&D into this, right? So descriptive and predictive had been there for quite good amount of time. Bioinformatics came into picture, right? But generative AIs and primarily deep learning models, right, for targeted diseases problems, right, and so on and so forth, we it is would be possible to generate molecular structures. There is already a discussion which is going on, a huge amount of movement, right? What does it mean? So you can generate the molecular structures optimized for a targeted disease, even for a flu, right? But there are so many variants which are coming into factor that you are not able to fine tune or get into that particular space. But we know generative AI can fine tune, right?
Yeah.
It can go to that depth. You need to keep on definitely train, but as like a simulator works, you would be able to do this as well, right? At the speed and the space that was never imagined before. And then finally, of all this information gathered together, so generative AI, in this case, I'm using it to under, underline and understand the unstructured information together. I combine all of these three things together and create an automated lab experiment. So I'll take, again, I speak on my words, on myself, that there might be a time where most of the simulations that were very, very dependent upon human molecular structure, human anatomy, those experiments can be transferred as a digital twin to an agentic AI.
I find it possible as well, and I completely concur with you on that.
And
Again,
it can predict success rate for the testing mechanism, what can actually fail, how would it react in a human body. It can actually create a twin and put it inside.
see, the real challenge was I view it very, I just try to simplify it because this is just make it very engaging and entertaining for everybody who's watching it. The complexity of the real environment was difficult to mimic.
Correct.
Okay. The complexity associated with the real environment. We live in a physical world. It has got like dimensions and multiple layers and quantum and whatsoever and whatnot. With means of these technologies and the way they have evolved now, you can actually make an attempt at mimicking it as closely as possible. And
True.
that is one big achievement, I would say. So anywhere you will have molecular drugs, new materials getting discovered, complex problems getting addressed. That is going to be real because you have increased complexity, you have bigger complex challenges across the world with climate
True.
change and multiple different things for which there are no straight or easy answers. So this is, I think this is just a right intervention at the right time. And it basically simplifies the complexity when you are trying to mimic it. That's how I view it.
True, Mohit. And I would like to add one or two more things. One is, um, geographically, the world has been very separate, right? Drugs getting developed in India, shipped to another part of the world. In Europe, America, or China, things are getting developed, coming to India, and so on and so forth. It was extremely difficult, and still it is very difficult, to actually mimic how would a similar trial body would work in a particular country versus another country. We There was no machine to be developed, and robots cannot experiment, right? So you cannot create a robot which can, where you can give an injection and try to see what the trial would look like, right? It doesn't work that way. So you can actually go ahead and try and mimic that exact structure today.
Exactly.
That's one of the ways. That means scale and geolocation would become a lot of simple in the preliminary steps. And secondly, of course, the scale part, right? The scalability of at least information interaction or communication becomes much more easier. Imagine a virtual assistant or an assistant who is doing on a similar drug trial across the world in, let's say, 100 countries, one shot, right? And each of the agents being powered by a virtual agent assistant would be able to talk to the human beings and share information thereafter. It can make it
Revolutionary.
possible. It
Yeah.
can make it revolutionary. However, steps can take time, because discoveries takes more than 5 years, 2 years, and there are multiple timelines. It can
Yeah.
not only just save millions of research and development dollars, but it can actually accelerate life-saving treatments, to be precise, right?
Yeah.
Communicable and non-communicable disease.
That's true.
One of the most easiest ones, basically. So from the hardest, let's go come to one of the a bit of easier ones, is basically personalized medicine. First of all, I'm not telling that we will replace doctors. It is not possible. They Human beings are the domain experts, as I have said in my previous one as well. A CPG domain experts who has been revolutionizing how soda is prepared cannot be replaced. What can be accelerated, enabled, and empowered is what the process looks like. So AI in personalized medicine basically will we have been already doing looking at genetic data, lifestyle data, clinical data. That's what we said. Um, the predictive AI looks at the disease progression, treatment outcomes. Generative AIs will look at the drugs dosage, the combination of various drugs, right? Still people fear to go to a doctor. I fear to go to a doctor directly in a country like India, right? Where there is probably um, 1:1 lakh in a ratio. I cannot reach out to a doctor. So what are you actually every day dealing upon? Let's be very practical and examplematic. We generally, and it's being said by everybody, not just WHO, but all the doctors, do not become a doctor yourself, basically. But we tend to look at the chemists, right? And the druggists, or somebody who knows basics about it, would be able to give you some material and give it go, rather than looking. That's called human intuition, right? It's just called human intuition. Just take this pill and you will be good. It's just an experiment. You don't even know my symptoms itself. So generative AI can actually look at the drug dosages and drug combinations. It can increase the way productivity can be enhanced for a doctor, right? This can be explanatory, or or game changing for the doctors itself, basically, right? They would be able to look at multi form of patients at one point of time without sacrificing the health or any of the parameters in itself. And finally,
This,
you
yeah.
can create clinical assistance and patient monitoring together and combine it, all of them.
Yeah, I see it like decisions are getting much more data driven. That's number one, obviously. And you're giving longer hands and arms to the doctors. Like the
Yep.
accessibility to healthcare and
Hmm.
medical facilities. will enhance. And I saw multiple examples of that very recently in a tech event that I went to, which is Jitex, where the
Mm.
startups are there, which are working on this prototype, that if there are like there are countryside kind of booths, like consoles, which are set up, which is doing like 50% job of a doctor itself. The patient is telling the entire thing is getting monitored, and it is doing as good as a normal physician would in a kind of a small government operated medical facility. So it's the sheer scale and the convergence. This is going to make healthcare much more accessible. It's giving some additional augmentation to doctors,
And
and
again, it's all part of that experience. It's the same thing, enablement and experience. Both will
experience.
be,
Exactly.
though both will be elevated. From a
Absolutely.
consumer, which is us as patients, right? I need faster access to Mohit, but Mohit has to look at 100 patients in a day. What will he
Exactly.
do, right?
Yeah.
So there has to be something which has to come in between, right? So you can give an enormous amount of experiments, even in a language. And again, as I said, the revolution is in communication. You can make it understand any form of device, right? Any form of language, right? There is a
Yeah.
lot of Indic LLM which is already happening across India, right? And
Yeah.
across the world. So you can convert information in any form and converse with each other. See, the previous chatbots has been only just one way communicated. It can only do a FAQ. We tried it during the COVID times, but it was not fully functional. Would I have a should I call an ambulance right now? Is my condition that bad? I don't even know, basically,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not able to go to the doctor. Where would I rely upon? There has to be somebody who should be talking. It can work as a pseudo clinical assistant, right? Rather than having
Yes.
one assistant, the doctor can have 10,
I see it
right?
as like my well-being assistant. It could be
Absolutely,
multiple factors. It's just
absolutely,
about one of the biggest goals is I cannot experience life if I'm not feeling well. So I am
absolutely,
having a well-being assistant or a well-being coach to say keep
absolutely.
on communicating and reminding me just to do what I'm supposed to do. Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah. So it improves patient outcomes, focuses a lot of healthcare, but let's look at one more, right? And manufacturing, we know it very well, right? Predictive maintenance has been there for quite some time. So machines are the backbone of the society, industrial revolution to be precise. The the industry 5.0 is actually here. And the industry 5.0 would be actually revolutionized by combining generative AI and agentic AI. Again, coming from my mouth, I would still say because everything about industrial revolution was communication, basically, right? Beyond automation. Automation in its third phase, right? People are getting adapted in growing countries like India. It is still getting used to it, right? But in already matured economies, it's already been there, basically. So there is a scale which is already there. So beyond monitoring of the data, looking at anticipatory breakdowns with IoTs and so on and so forth, which is already there, you look at the proactive maintenance and adjust the production lines in real time, and you would be able to not just anticipate, but you would be also be able to tell. You will not be at the mercy of the vendor who will tell you that you need to service it every 3 months. There is no logic. Was
Hmm.
there any logic? You can ask the agentic AI, should I go ahead and do a entire lift and shift of my of all my maintenance equipments in the plant? It might be a no. And just and you might be able to see spend some amount of dollars and so on and so forth in this case,
This
right?
is
Or
going
or maybe
to
save it.
Yeah, this is going to make it more like a scenario where maybe because of the workload, there
Mhm.
are some components or some parts of the machinery which has got, or some plants which have
Yeah,
more of an issue, while others are not. And why you are trying to do an overall of the entire system, where and based on the workload, you can recommend, okay, the service is not due, but it is recommended to have it because we have done a lot of production, there was more demand, and blah 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 blah. This can
that's the
actually,
that's
yeah,
the causality.
that's
That's
the
what we call as
causality.
causality. If
Yeah.
nobody, so if I say that the VIF and the CIF was negligibly to par, right, and the statistical inference was going down, what would you do as a plant manager? No
Yeah.
way. But if I say that now these systems, these ball bearings in these six systems need to be replaced because these were supposed to be replaced 6 months back, but there are 17 new ones. It's okay. Don't do anything with the 17 ones. Just replace the
Hmm.
six.
Yeah.
because these are the ones which happened. It might go ahead and tell you that the UPS system or the generator system which is there in your plant is actually creating a lot of damage to your equipment. Please rectify that. You don't need to change the machines. Just
Yeah.
change your generator, right? This is explainability and causality. This will be brought by generative and agentic AI, right?
Truly.
So production optimization will go in a through power mode from here, basically, right? Um, we have been talking about sustainability, Mohit, for such long time. We've been putting it on our sustainable goals, right? I've been working on ESG uh, and some part of that area for quite some time. But technically, in manufacturing, very less amount of impact had been done yet, other than the on papers, to be precise, right? Why? Because again, communication was lacking. What to improve? Where should you do things? It was always a chain reactive, and here
So
comes your workflow processes,
so it
basically.
was like, okay, I don't know what to measure. I don't know
Yes,
how to measure. I don't have the devices to measure, and I do not know what to report. It was a
and
story of these kind of.
correct. And the product, one of the examples, right? My team and me have been working on it for quite some time, and we have done it for a long, and so on and so forth. We One of the biggest problems in sustainability management is waste management. The amount of production wastage, forget about just India, across the world, the amount of wastage which happens, right? The waste generation, there is no track, right? There is no tracking of the energy consumption. There might be independent tracking like energy consumption, waste generation, emission across the facilities. These are the very few precise ones by the KPIs, right? There might be a lot of ones which are not even tracked. So you can use descriptive to track it. And these are because technically IoTs and the commodities are becoming damn cheaper today, right? And it is our responsibility that we go ahead and do it. You We have given an example of energy demand and saving, but you can use it for any waste management, right? You forecast energy management and waste of the outputs under different production scenarios. That's what predictive AI does for you. Generative AI will actually design a brand new workflow which is efficient and recommendable with waste reduction strategy. This will become a strategist for you. In the previous example, the AI was only to look at as a maintenance manager. Here, it's a plant and sustainable strategist.
True.
See, the role is changing by the persona of the consumer itself, who is actually making and bringing it right from the part. The agentic AI will again start recommending autonomously when to switch. It can be for your house, right? We can do it for our houses as well, right?
Yeah.
There would be times which will be coming into picture, right? And there is some work which is already happening, right? I've been working with some of the researchers where we are trying to look at the solar panels. They're not able to sell because they cannot explain to the normal consumer because it's so technical that if Mohit asks why should I install your solar panel, it would not be able to tell in Mohit's language. Mohit would ask as as an Indian what it will give, kitna deti hai, right? That's important. Why should I install a solar panel? Okay, it's hypothetical. My friend has done it or 100 people have done it. You cannot sell it like a FOMO. It
Oh.
has a real need. It can immediately connect if you have the system in your place. Let's say for if any of the entrepreneurs are listening to us
Again,
today,
the issue is experience and communication.
it can bring that communication experience
Exactly.
in totality, right?
Yeah.
Look at the
Yeah.
energy demand and consumption of the house and try to attach it with the value that your solar panel is bringing into the picture.
No, it
Correct?
is. I think if you flip the question as to what do you, how much of energy you want to sell to the grid,
Yeah.
that becomes a much more interesting value proposition, especially for people who are having short-sightedness as to I'm looking for a FOMO or I'm looking for a kind of a short-sighted incentive. But yeah, I mean, I see the dots connecting and I see how AI will be able to create a impact into this particular
And
space.
sometimes on a lighter note, it might tell my mother-in-law who loves her 20-year-old fridge, right, which she uses to keep stocks, right, of groceries, to tell her that that's consuming 80% of the energy. No solar panel in the world can save it. You and me cannot tell it.
Yeah.
Generative AI can tell it in Hindi
Yeah.
or any other language or any regional language itself, which human beings can
Exactly.
understand. You can tell the truth
Yeah.
without any problem. You like it or not, it can tell the truth.
Truly. This
Communication
is
will be challenged very well. So it can bring in a lot of environment. Actually, environmental sustainability goals can be measured, tracked, and accelerated. Let's look at the last part today for us. One
sure.
of the one of the most interesting and which rules the world, finance. And I'm talking about consumer lending today because of let's not go into some of the other ones which are comparatively much more complex. This is what we do in daily life, right? Consumer lending, right? We all know it. People take loans, right? People have access to credit. A lot of people don't even have access to credit, right? And today, credit history is dominated, or credit is always dominated by some organizations who track it every 3 months or every month. But a lot of it is based upon the past only behavior. In the new system coming into picture, for example, you take up, they call it the predictive default risk models. Basically, you look at the propensity of default for a particular person, you and me, right, who are the natural borrowers, right? You can actually create personalized loan offers, and those loan offers can actually help them improve their credit rating. You can reverse the entire game, right? Students, entrepreneurs, MSMEs
Because it will be
do not get
context,
loans,
it will be context sensitive to the current environment or the current situation of the borrower.
and you respond to the way, not only just the structured behavior of a human being is, you look at the unstructured behavior as well, how many places that he goes. He's an entrepreneur who is looking to create the next generation of, let's say, of an sustainable goal, right? Looking at waste management, right? A protocol, right? It might not just be a biodegradable one, but there is no knowledge in the credit rating and the history. I'm just giving a hypothetical example. This can be uncovered from a generative AI. It can be working as creating a simulated personalized offer. Maybe starting small, you can generate that history and create relations, so you can broaden the entire horizon. You can change the entire loan processing game in the industry itself. Finally, you automate that entire approval process. It's all about speed. In this case, agentic is only speed. Generative AI will actually talk about your personal profiling. It will work with you and the borrower and as well as the lender together, right, to create a personalized experience of a scale, right? How many times you have been contacted by, let's say, a personalized, um, um, uh, a portfolio agent, right, or a portfolio manager in the bank? Very few people have access to it unless you have a
No,
gross
it's like
salary.
most of the times it's very generic. I mean, your standard
You
reply is
need
okay, it
something?
doesn't.
No, he calls me up and said, "Do you need something?" I said,
Yeah.
"No."
No, it's
Eh,
just like,
And
yeah,
one
it's
day
just like
and
finding a needle in a haystack.
yeah, and one day I asked that guy, if I've been with your bank for last 15 years. If you
You don't
don't
even
know
have
me,
data.
no. And the answer that he gave me was, I just joined 3 months back. I had no answer. I said, what will I do? Okay, it's
Boss,
fine.
your bank had a system before 3 months. You are capturing my data for
Yes,
15 years. That's the,
yes. You have you have my balance sheet for the last 15 years. You know every history, right? You talk about, right? Some of the banking organizations even know what kind of plates and spoons that you use, which cutlery that you go for, where do you
yeah,
eat, what do you buy. You have my Swiggy data. Swiggy can use my data to actually power the banks, right? Or
exactly.
Swiggy's and Zomatos, right? On this part. So things are going to be very, very different in the loan
Hmm,
processing area. It might not come tomorrow because it's a regulated field. Again, as I said, right? It's a
hmm.
regulated field, but there will be a lot of new nuances which will dominate into this picture. Not just increasing loan approvals, driving disbursements, but creating a whole new genre of people who will come and attract to a financial system, right? On this part. Prevention and cross-selling, as in all marketing people love it. It's the same thing across the world, including this game of consumer lending itself, right? But in this case, you again create personalized strategies, right? And outreach to just engage with the customer. Basically, what are you going through? Are there any challenges? How should I shape your portfolio? right? Would you
Mm.
like to work with us? These are the things that we all want as a consumer. Basically, we have not been able to do it so far. We have been always been able to predict some customer's lifetime value and how much you are as a portfolio are to the company. But let's say with the bank, with the non, with the profitable and so on and so forth, of the systems. But this will give start giving you something. This will act as an empowering directly to the consumer. It will start talking to you. That's what is important in the customer engagement, one on one and explicit level of engagement, because that's what drives the top institutions of the world. And an institution would not just be a centralized institution itself,
So
it will be
actually, we
there.
are getting that premium experience, and we are industrializing it right now. We are industrializing the premium experience, making it accessible to
Absolutely.
a wider population, so that they also experience what it is to be taken care of. And
And
one
that's what democratization is all about, was
exactly.
right.
But one interesting challenge I see, this will come, of course, and I'm not sure how you think about it. It is going to be the quality of the data. The way the data has been captured over the last couple of decades,
Hmm.
it is not into the best shape and form in order to, somebody was not visionary enough to imagine that one day data will become my basis of taking the decision, and
Correct.
especially a business decision. It was just formality. It was just dumped up randomly, especially if you see the way data is captured into public sector enterprises. It is crazy. So I
So
don't know what you
I
think
would
about
say,
that.
yeah, Mohit, it's a very interesting proposition. We cannot change the data. However, it can tell you what is the data we don't want to save. And that
Hmm.
also can be done by agents. See,
Yes.
agent can do both the ways of communication, basically, right? In this chain cycle itself, you had an initial amount of data through which you did descriptive AI, then you did predictive AI. You try to predict the customer's lifetime value and what are the kind of product interests, right? And then you told Mohit, with a personalized strategy and marketing offer, this is what we want to do in the next 6 months. Imagine just after 1 month, right? We, the institution comes back to you through the app or whatever, maybe WhatsApp or something, tells you that, you know what, there are things which are not working out. Don't invest. This, when you start saying no to things, imagine the amount of power that comes into picture. On the other hand, agentic AI will actually start empowering descriptive AI, right? Because it's a chain reaction, right?
True.
And as like the actual prophecy and the strategy, right? The chain reaction is all about the fusion that you're doing. Fusion can be also reversed and repeated. Agentic AI will start controlling the descriptive AI and tell, don't use this data to do description, because these amount of variables were never used in the last 100 months. These are
True.
not of use. That is the level that it would go into. Data engineering, right, and data management will go through a enormous amount of transformation. And that's why I call it as a chain reaction rather than an independent working cycle, right? So I don't know whether it is a takeaway, and we can keep on debating. My thought processes might be comparatively much more futuristic. I do not know whether we will be able to achieve everything in 2025, but in the from 2025 to 2030, we would see a lot of amalgamation, because people are focusing on vertical artificial intelligence and horizontal artificial intelligence, right? Which is, horizontal is all about sales, marketing. These are all the um, business functions. Horizontals are nothing but the business functions. The verticals are which areas would you like to put up. Basically, every business function has most of it, right? On this picture, combining a flux of all of them as a pipeline will create a robust ecosystem, right?
True.
And solve multiple complex business challenges and interlink each other.
Hmm.
That would start happening. It will drive automation, efficiency, scalability, because today automation would not be about pushing a button and it will do something. It should explain, what are you going for, why are we doing it, and then it will start empowering the decisions. It will explain and find you the most causal inferences that would
Hmm.
drive your day-to-day decisions. Even you
True.
would ask an agent, should I do this yoga posture, is it good for my life?
Hmm. It
Should I
might
use,
vary. Answer
it
will
might
vary
vary,
from one person to another.
every individual. Oh,
Yeah.
10 people in the house using 10 single application, everybody will have a different experience. That is what you would imagine. We would go up to that scale and enabling the decision maker to take actions against those outcomes,
True.
right? It will measure outcomes, right? Business outcomes, which as in it can be either saving or generation of revenue or customer satisfaction, but experience and satisfaction will take the upper hand,
Hmm.
not just revenue and cost saving, basically. If you have engaged customers, nothing can drive out your revenue and cost savings because
Truly.
those are just the participants as the game. So
Focus on the customer. Focus
yes,
on the customer.
focus on the customer, learn the domain, right? And if we have audiences who are listening today, our show, of our talk, we talked about a lot of business and business problems,
Yeah.
but people who are just trying to enter this field, right? One of the biggest myths is people who can only do programming would be able to become data scientists. It is a myth.
It's a myth.
Anybody,
Yeah.
anybody who comes from science, start learning the domain, right? Go to the individual roadside shops that are there in your house. They will give you data,
Yeah.
right? The milk vendor, right? The person who's giving you grocery, the fashion store. And that's why I'm giving you examples which are real life to a day-to-day life. From starting when you get up in the morning till the point, whoever is giving you any kind of service or a product, go to them,
Has the data.
learn the domain. Because at the point, at one point of time, as we have been discussing, um, the need to do only good coding will
Cease
not be
to.
there. It will cease to exist,
It will cease
right?
to exist. Yeah.
From that standpoint, right? This is a take for all my budding people who want to get into data science, and this will be the evolution of data science. But for business, there is a lot of reality. There is a lot of work which is already there. But the future is going to be extremely efficient and explorative and enabled.
This has been an absolutely, I would say, roller coaster of a ride. Very insightful, very too much of depth was there. I mean, it goes to show the depth that you have acquired over the decades. So thank you so much, Dr. Roy. It was an absolute privilege having you here on this one. And I'm quite sure, I mean, especially the last bit that you spoke about, this is extremely relevant for people who have maintained a distance from artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science, and these kind of topics, saying, okay, I am from a different work stream, I am from business finance, or I am from supply chain, I don't understand these things. If you understand your domain, you understand these things. So
Absolutely.
it has been a very insightful episode for me personally as well. I cannot
Same
thank
here,
you
Mohit.
enough. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this for us. And this entire presentation, this will go down in history as a reference book, as a kind of a blue book for people to refer to. Thank you so much.
No,
And as we can
absolutely,
see, the
Mohit.
transformative impact of AI, different types of AI, is all around us.
Absolutely. One line to end this our conversation, right, is yes, people are saying that AI will take jobs,
Hmm.
right? AI will transform jobs for sure. It is already transforming. But if you don't learn the domain and you don't want to adopt, things will become difficult. So today, start using AI to accelerate your domain journey, basically your
Exactly.
learning journey. Learn the practical perspective of how human beings started learning the journeys. Thank you so much, Mohit.
Absolutely. Thank you
Pleasure
so
here.
much. Thank you so much.